Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Laura Eisenhower. I'm co-hosting this really, really special episode, Once in a Blue Moon, with Nick Sylvester. And oh my goodness, look who we have here, Simon Parkes and Alex Collier. I mean, I know so many are already familiar with both of you. Alex is an Andromeda contactee. He has a webinar that he does weekly, and he's been in this for so long. Same with Simon. And it's just incredible. Simon is the founder of Connecting Consciousness, which is a huge network. And me and Nick both just talked to you, and I was just on Alex's. So, and now here we are, all of us together. So, Nick, I just want to hand it to you to further the introduction.
Oh, well, gosh, thanks, Laura. And thank you so much, Laura. Laura was instrumental in getting this little panel together. I mean, we've sort of been working on it for a few months, and everybody has scheduling issues, and the world is a bit of a crazy place. Always good to see you, Laura. Love you to death. You're a true soul, as well as Simon. We've done a lot of things together. I love spending time with Simon. His knowledge is well, I've never found anybody that's capable of knowing something about every single topic on the planet, or at least one you can come up with. This is my first opportunity to meet the amazing Alex Collier. I've followed Alex for many, many years. I've watched some of his stuff all the way back since early 90s, 93, 94, I believe. And I'm very, it's kind of like the viewers are going to be like, well, look at those three amazing people. And then there's this guy again. Why is this guy with the black hat on? But I just feel very, very privileged for this opportunity, just to hang out with you guys. And Alex, I mean, like Simon was talking a little bit prior to the show starting about Alex and his being an amazing pioneer of this movement for 30 plus years. I actually, Alex, I watched an hour interview that you did in 1994 last night. I don't know where I found it. I just found it. And just your courage and your passion and your true love for humanity is phenomenal, especially how you've been able to keep that love and that compassion through these 30 years of absolute opposition from every single angle, from the dark forces, the cabal, the humans, the regressive ETs, and the individual pain and strife that you faced. But in the face of that, you've been able to contain and keep that love. And it's there. And it's funny, Alex. I mean, many times you've been asked a question, Alex, why do you think that you've been chosen as a contactee from the Andromedans? Why you? What? And you've always very humbly said, you know what? I don't really know. But I think we all know. I think that ability, that innate ability that very few, if anyone, has, that ability to keep that love and compassion through 30 plus years of torment is phenomenal. And many people watching this will not get an opportunity to personally thank you, but I will. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing what you do.
Wow, I think we should end right here.
Oh, that's not fair.
Oh my gosh, both of you. I mean, you haven't seen each other for what, a decade?
Yeah. We did about maybe
9 years. Yeah.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
we haven't had a chin waggle in that long.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nick, thank you for all those. But there have been a lot of other pioneers who have been forgotten. Billy Meyer is one. And all the other researchers, Wendell Stevens, John, what's his name? Bob Dean. and many others, Bill Cooper, and there've been so many others who, you know, we have forgotten about. Jordan Maxwell, you know, we can't ever forget him. You know, all of these incredible people. Carrie Cassidy, she's still thumping, you know, and there's been so many others, you know, who have left us that equally deserve mention. You know, we all had a vision of a Star Trek humanity, the ability to genuinely be free, and we just knew. Somehow we came in, we just knew that what was going on here was just totally wrong. And you know, of course, we were labeled conspiracy theorists. Now, you know, we understand that being a conspiracy theorist just means that you're a pattern recognition specialist. You know, you see things before others do. And you know, frankly, we've run out of conspiracy theories because they've all been proven to come true. So, and Simon's one of those, and Laura is now, you know, carrying the banner as well. So, you know, there's a lot of other people coming, and I think it's great. You know, if I had one regret, it's that it didn't happen sooner. You know, that it just didn't happen sooner. But we underestimated the dark side of the force. We did. We really had no idea how entrenched they were, and how far they would go to keep power and to suppress humanity. You know, the turning point for me was not only the contacts, but it was also when I learned about the kids, what was going on with the kids. Because, you know, I was the oldest of 11. It was a years, mine, and ours, but I was still the oldest of 11. And we lost some very young. You know, and I remember in high school, kids disappearing and, you know, putting up posters and banners and handing out flyers. Remember, the kids used to be on the milk cartons. The missing children were on milk cartons.
Yeah.
And when I found out what was actually happening, a part of me just snapped. And I was like, you know, no, we just can't let this happen. And, you know, I naively just jumped right into it and started talking about the kids and who was doing it. And because I thought everybody would want to know, and I was wrong. Not everybody did want to know. It was so painful. They just didn't want to deal with it. And I think it's because of that fear, that repulsion to moving people out of their comfort zone, that this problem of human trafficking and well, you know, we can call it to a degree satanic sacrifice, but of course we know that there's a lot more to that now. It just grew and grew and grew, and now it's a global problem where millions of children every year are just disappearing. And it's the children. We're losing the youth, the future of our planet. That is not okay. Under any circumstance, that is not okay. So that's been a huge motivation. And then becoming a parent, you know, that changes all the rules, you know. So
That does. I'm a parent as well, Alex. Minor 13 and going on 15, and you know, that's about when the time I absolutely did an about face. You know, it was, you know, it wasn't magic, but it seemed like it was magic. It was me finally listening to the powers that be, the God, creator, source, higher self, and realizing that you know, we all have a reason, a purpose, and that's sort of when I just went from being some crazy 30-something to being where we are now.
Yeah. Well, nature doesn't create a vacuum. It abhors a vacuum. So there's always a purpose for us being where we are. It's our job to find out what that is, and sometimes that's a lifetime of work or lifetimes of work.
Yeah. I wanted to throw a question out to kind of maybe take us a little bit back in time, not too far, but to give people a pretty good understanding. And I'm pretty sure the three of you guys know a little bit about this topic. And it was something that Alex talked about, maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe less, but I'm sure he's talked about it throughout. In the creation of the Matrix. And somewhere around 14,000 years ago, there was a move to reduce humans' abilities around the Chaldean, the Greek, the Sumerian texts were speaking about things in regards to the Tower of Babel, creating separation, changing of religions, changing of language. And you said that at this time was a basic creation of the Matrix paradigm. I was hoping that you could maybe talk a little bit more about that, and the other two could pop in and jump in from their point of view, if we could do that.
Guys, you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Well, when we talk about years, we know, all of us here know, that a lot of our history has been erased or hidden from us. So I don't recall ever saying 14,000 years, because we lost Atlantis somewhere between 11,007 and 13.
Yes.
But we can go back about 8,000 years to Sumeria, or the civilization before. Now, it's very difficult to know exactly who did what, because, and I'm just going to say it, there are thousands of discrepancies in the Bible. Even if you go back to the Sinai Bible, which was compiled in 500 AD, allegedly. Rumor has it there's one even earlier than that. It's in a private collection. And you take the King James Version, there's at least, thousands of discrepancies. So we won't technically be using that as a factor of dates. But what we do know is that the story of the Tower of Babel, we were building our own spaceports. We wanted to go into space like the gods. We were working side by side, so we were creating technology. If you go through, especially Arabic history, many of the texts do not get to see the light of day because they're considered fables, mythology. But the fact of the matter is, people in those days didn't write fiction. They were describing real events, things that were happening every single day. So we were building a spaceport, and we wanted to go into space. We had a very advanced civilization. And there have been components of history that back this up. And I'm going to give you one example of a coal mine that was found in Russia. The coal mine went several miles into the ground, and they had busted through a wall. They didn't realize it was a wall, but while they were drilling, they busted into they broke down a wall, and in this cavern, they found a box that was inside this cavern. And they estimated that it could have been there 4, 5, 10, 20 million years. They don't really know, because carbon testing is not an accurate science. It's just not. It's the best we have, but it's not. Anyway, when they opened it up, they found articles inside of it. One of them, which was really interesting, appeared to be some kind of a mirror. Okay, it was, I don't know, about 12, 14 inches, and it had a handle. They had no idea what this thing was. So they took it back to Moscow, and scientists were looking at it. And what's interesting is that they decided, well, let's X-ray it. and they x-rayed it, and what they found were microchips inside this device that supposedly was millions of years old. And they tried everything, and they didn't want to open it. They didn't want to destroy it. They tried everything to try to figure out how to get this thing to work or figure out what it did. But what's interesting is that they had been working on this for several months, and at some point they had just put it over on a shelf. An office, either next door or one over, was experimenting with ELF waves. So when they turned on this ELF wave, specifically what happened was this mirror turned on, and they saw it, and they picked it up, and what it showed was it was pictures and very small clips of like movies of a time, and it's this waterway, this canal, and there are people dressed very similar to our modern clothes walking back and forth, and it appeared to be somewhere in the Middle East. And they're walking, and then above them were what we have been told were flying carpets, mavadis. And what they were is they were wooden platforms that had magnetic technology in the four corners, and they would ride ley lines. Okay, they would ride on the ley lines, and they put the carpet on top of it because it was wood, and people would sit down or stand and they would get splinters. So they laid the carpet down on top of it. And you can see them flying over these people walking back and forth on these canals. All right. And then they had pictures of families dressed in very similar clothes that we would associate today with India. Okay. In India, formal dress wear. And they were absolutely flabbergasted. And it's my understanding that they shared this information with certain countries around the world. And then it was like, hush, we can't talk about this because it exposes all of the history we've been taught as an absolute sham. So we came from, there have been at least 7 previous civilizations. The Native Americans, the Hopi, say that we're the 8th. We're the 8th civilization based on their oral tradition. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know for a fact. But we do know that there have been many previous civilizations, many of them far more advanced than we are today.
On camera's frozen.
Okay, more advanced than we are today. So what happened was this freaked the Anunnaki, some of the Anunnaki. So what they did was they decided, no, we can't have this. We know they can't be like us, because we were created to work the mines. We were created to be the workers, not to be their equals.
Right.
So this is when they decided to separate us and move our civilizations to different parts of the world, and then change our languages as well. And what they did was they didn't make up languages. They taught us alien languages because they already knew them. And the languages, the different languages that we speak, all come from off-world already. But we wouldn't have known that because they dumbed us down all along the way. And our history was systematically erased or kept from us. And then when Rome was created, there was contact between the Rome, the Caesars, and then the pontiffs, and then the Vatican, and they continued to destroy our civilization or the history of our civilizations. So we wouldn't know truly who we are, The only thing that they've always harped on is that we're sinners. And that nonsense, right? And I mean, that's the Cliff Notes version. I don't know if you remember Cliff Notes. That's the Cliff Notes version of this.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hand it to the other guys,
Yeah,
So
sorry to take it away.
shit.
Thank you
So
so much for that. That's amazing. And Simon Parkes, I mean, I gave kind of a brief intro, and I know everybody's familiar, but you have quite the family background, and we're going to do a show, I hope, dedicated to a bit more about that. How would you answer that question that Alex just answered?
Well, let's go to the beginning. A lot of people listening would say Billy Meyer was a fraud because he, above all others, has been attacked heavily. And my answer is, if he was a fraud, why did the CIA rent the building next door to him, stick the cameras up and film him?
Right.
So
there was also at least 17 assassination attempts.
Okay, I didn't know it was 17. I knew
Really?
he'd had a lot.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people need to be very careful, even on the alternative side, people that appear to be, you know, one of us and fighting for humankind, they will stick the knife in, and people have to be very, very careful. So, you know, Alex talked about the children. My experience is that if you talk about glowing lights in the sky, the deep state don't give a damn. They don't care. But as soon as you start talking about missing children or any of the elements that could be traced back to them, that's when they activate, and that's when they want to shut you down. That's very interesting. And we've lost a lot of people through very, very suspicious causes. We've lost some people just through heartbreak or natural, but most people, it's unexplained. Be very careful what we say here. It is interesting because it's not the elephant in the room, because I think Alex and I are big enough, but Alex's contacts are from a different dimension from mine. And ultimately you would look at it and would say, well, these should be enemies. That's what's very interesting because of the different dimensions. But the reality is that if every element has a good faction, even if it's just about 1%, but there are a number of entities out there who have jumped ship, who are looking for an agreement. And as individuals on the earth, we have to decide which side of the fence we're on. And if you've had many incarnations and many lifetimes, and you've learned from what you've seen, then you know what's right. And so I'm very hopeful and positive for the future, because I think that humanity has crossed, we use the bridges that Alex has put forward. I think it's gone far enough to prove that it's worth that extra journey. And that's not to say that we should, you know, rest and take our eye off the ball, because although I think the head of the snake has been removed, I think there are quite an embedded number of individuals who have got a grudge, or they've got their own show to play. So it's not all cleared. It's not all over. A number of people saying that the war's won. It's not. I can assure people about it is not won. But we're in quite a strong position. So I think when November the 5th comes and there's an election, and then January, whoever wins, I'm hoping and praying that the topics, the energy can somewhat go back to where it needs to go back, because at the moment, the huge focus is on the United States and politics. And I really think that that's we've been taken off where the real battle is. And so I'm hoping come the election, we can get back and start talking about matters which frankly are more important. It may not seem it to many, but the elements that we've just started talking about now, fundamentally to the survival of humanity. So I'm hoping that we can get back onto the track and start really talking about things that we want to talk about.
Awesome.
I have to echo that, Simon. I mean, for a long time, I've fought to keep myself engaged in the geopolitical nonsense. In our eyes, obviously, it's not nonsense in the scheme of the plan, the movie, the steps we need to follow to help the individuals. I don't know, wake up. I'm sick of that term as well. So, in the spirit of that context, I mean, let's kind of go from long ago. And I wanted to ask this question for all of you. Anyone can jump in first, second, third, whatever. But throughout this process, the whole trust the plan battle pops up, pops down, pops up. Whereas people challenge the plan, people challenge whether or not there is a plan. In what if, and this is sort of most of the question, what if the plan is the white hats waiting for us to no longer say, I'm going to trust the plan? What if that is the plan? Obviously trusting a plan blindly goes completely against what we're doing here. The development of of sovereignty, the development of our discernment, not blindly trusting from outside, but go within. So is that possible? Could that be part of the plan? Is there a plan? Go ahead and jump in, you guys. I'd love to hear your opinions about that.
I once asked the A's what was to become of us because I had an experience where they showed me ruins on different worlds of civilizations. And I asked them, what happened to them? And he said, well, they lost their original intent. And I learned a short time after that, what that actually meant was that these civilizations lost their vision and they began to implode on themselves. So I once asked Phaseus, what's to become of us? And he told me that, this was his response: to become totally self-confident and free, to unconditionally be responsible for oneself without being coerced by some higher authority. That was his response. Now, Nick, you bring up a really interesting point about the plan. And there are a lot of us who are very quietly preparing to do things, at least on a local level, to take back our power, to take back our communities from the cabal. And I think what we're just sort of waiting for is the right moment. We don't necessarily want armed insurrection because, we have 25, 30 million veterans in this country. And we also have foreign illegal immigrants that are in this country that have come from war-torn countries. No one really wants to have fights and wars and battles in our neighborhoods between our homes. But if push comes to shove, it will go there. It will go there. Even local law enforcement, there are a lot of conversations going on between law enforcement, the veterans groups. There are, let me just say that they're just conversations happening. Mm-hmm. It's not like we don't know. We do. We're just waiting to see what's going to happen. Because I can only speak for the United States. I can't speak for Britain or Canada. But here, they're never going to get our guns. It's never going to happen. And they know it. We're never going to surrender. So the cabal has a shitstorm on their hands no matter what. And the minute we turn our focus completely on them, the name of the 500,000 plus indictments, who they are, once those names are released, there's going to be hunting parties. there's probably going to be hunting parties looking for these people to take them into custody and or not take them into custody. Because we're done playing. I mean, this is an absolute shit show, you know, and we have nuclear weapons in this country. You know, we have children that are missing. It's just insanity what's happening, at least in the United States. In my lifetime, I'd never thought I would ever see it like this. But it's here. I think we're at the crossroads. I really do. I think we're totally at a crossroads because the treason is obvious. Those who are committing treason, it's obvious. And, you know, this is a time bomb just waiting to be lit. It really is. I think what everybody's hoping on, because, you know, you do see some evidence of the plan. There's no question about that. You do. If you really look, you do see some evidence of the plan. And I'm hoping that, you know, even Trump is now saying, you know, I'm going to be arrested. Well, you know, back in 2017, 2018, they said that he would have to be insulated in order for the military to come in and take everything down. Well, if he's already talking about sometime in the next month, he's going to be arrested. Well, that means he's going to be insulated. And he won't be going to a cabal holding tank. They're not going to put him in there, but they will isolate him because, you know, he is in fact still the commander in chief. Even Kamala Harris said it when she was asked the question by a press, why do you think Trump didn't get convicted? She said, well, because you can't convict a sitting president. She said it herself. And she's the vice president of the cabal. You know, I mean, it's just like they're saying it, but it's just like some people are just brain dead. They don't pay attention or they simply don't listen as well as they hear. So, and it's probably more the latter. So they're saying it, you know, it's just people aren't able to connect the dots. Now, there's also that, well, you know, why is it taking so long? Look, this isn't add water and you got a muffin. That is not what this is. You know, they've had control for, what, 250 plus years just in the United States. You know, so what we're looking at we're looking at an operation that's been in effect roughly 50 years. All right. It went into full force after the Kennedy assassination. That was obviously a coup. So, you know, we've made a lot of ground. And it really began to be put into motion when Trump decided to not only run for the presidency, but, you know, you got to remember the military back in 2011 wanted to arrest Obama for treason because of the nonsense he was doing, funding ISIS, all of that stuff that was going on. But they realized that there would be a civil war. So they decided on a plan to show everybody what was going on. And, you know, we're probably at a 70%. It could be higher, but I'm comfortable saying that 70% of the people are aware of what's going on, regardless of the nonsense the media is pushing. They know. So we're at this crossroads. And I think it's literally between now and November. I personally don't believe we're going to have an election in November. I think it won't go until the spring of next year, that there'll be some kind of an election, paper ballot election. It won't be, you know, the scam elections that they've been running. So, but, you know, that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, you're nodding your head. I know you have a lot to say. And Laura's
Laura's not said anything yet.
A million things.
Oh,
Me and Laura, we're just like awestruck by some of you guys. But thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, Simon, Laura, what do you say?
I'd just say something really briefly. I'd much rather just listen. And I just wanted to, say that about the first question, I really feel the reversal grid energies, digression of the human, the junk DNA, which isn't really junk, and the trajectory of an artificial timeline requires our energy to battery it up. And it's this consenting to an inverted matrix false authority that people want to defend. They want to defend their captors. And like you guys were saying, it's too much to unpack. It's amazing that people are even putting their faith in any of these, individuals when it comes to their health, when it comes to some of these psyops and false flag events that take place, that they're still looking outside of themselves. So I see bifurcation as a breakup, like breaking up with an abusive partner that acts like it cares about you, but it really doesn't. And all the red flags are turning into bonfires. And once that dependency bond is broken and that alignment begins to happen, to me, that's like trusting the plan. And those on a human level that are in alignment with this, that are in service to humanity, that are in it for the right reasons, they're not power hungry, they're not greedy, they won't let themselves be compromised, are a part of that, just as we all are a part of that. And I feel, in Eisenhower's speech, a knowledgeable and aware citizenry. And I feel the warning about the military-industrial complex, where it stands today with positive military forces, that this is something that we can trust just as much as we should trust ourselves, just as much as when we let go of a dependency bond, we can, be in alignment with something that is a part of this greater plan, just like the immune system has a plan for us to heal us, to help us, but it's not going to do it for us if we don't allow it to function at its fullest. If we keep trashing ourselves, if we keep believing in less of ourselves, it just doesn't allow it to be as accessible, but it's always there. It's unconditional. So I feel that's a part of it. And, you guys can answer much more in detail about, the operations that are really going on, but I feel trusting the plan is not sitting back. It's trusting yourself and how it links into greater forces, that as this planetary body is like an organism, it's got a consciousness that it's been healing, and we're a part of the healing process. And if those wounds are shoved down and outer solutions that numb it or mask it or delay our ability to understand the root of where it came from, it becomes infected with AI versus healing on a responsible, self-aware and accountable level that can turn the wounds into wisdom and our pain into purpose. And I feel that that is a plan that our body holds, because nature's encoded with a capacity to heal us and bring equilibrium and heal an injury just by its makeup. Just, that's what nature does. And anything else is tricking us out of this process, so that we're constantly handing that faith to, the wrong people that aren't trustworthy. And I think that letting go is like, trust that you will be carried, you will be supported. Source energy, divine creator, unity consciousness, all of us coming together. We've got each other. We got each other's back. And then the positive military is working in tandem with that, and requires our awakening for them to be successful as well. But that's, what are your thoughts, Simon?
Sound
well, okay? Right.
Yeah, it's fine. When I signed my first NDA, my first non-disclosure agreement, I was told that this 4 years is a transition period. There would be 2 presidents, but it is a transition. And although it's hard for many people of the audience to listen to this, it actually meant the bad side were at the table and they had a voice. And this is the bit that I think many patriots would struggle to get their head around. But it's a transition time which allows a commander-in-chief and a president of the old business side, the old corporation, to represent the 2 factions, the 2 energies. But an agreement was reached that the good guys would actually have the transition of power to them. What nobody really thought about was the splintering within the bad side for what we call the diehards, the group that refused to sign any agreements and would go down fighting. And Alex knows that it's very difficult for these entities to get off the earth now. They're trapped, and something to do with a reptilian makeup, which means that they can't think logically, they can't say sorry, they can't apologize, they can't take responsibility for what they did. And that is their downfall, because they can't grow within themselves. And so unfortunately, there is a faction of human and non-human groups on this planet that you cannot negotiate with. You cannot, and you do have to use a neutron bomb deep down in the earth to cleanse it. And that's what they've been doing.
Does this lead to like the wiping out of humans?
No, but where you've got non-humans down in deep bases, who are very, very, very clever, you can't outthink them. So if you use a neutron bomb, there's no radiation, and that type of explosion has been very successful. That's what they've been doing to wipe out this faction, or at least to contain this faction, because they won't come to the table.
You think the hyperhumans can that have been compromised or mind controlled?
That's different. No, that's different. If a human has had something done, they've either been tricked or it's been done against their will. There is always a way out of that. The difficulty is for someone who full knowing agrees and signs a contract. I don't mean a paper contract, it's an energy contract. So if somebody goes into a contract that's negative to them and negative to humanity, and they did it full knowing, that's their problem. But there are a ton of people out there who were tricked, and there is a way out for them. That's just how the universe works. Yeah, sure.
There's no introspection. There's no voluntary introspection. They take narcissism to a completely different level that we could even imagine, which is, to Simon's point, there is no remorse ever. It's all about them. And when you're dealing with somebody like that, there is no negotiation, because they will say anything that they can in order to get a leg up, or to put themselves in a position where they can then begin to manipulate somebody else. It's a nightmare scenario with these beings, which is why they've been such an issue throughout our galaxy and other galaxies. But the thing about it is that they show us the contrast. Because of what they are. I mean, it must take a tremendous amount of energy to be that much of an asshole, but they show us the contrast. They clearly show us what we don't want. So for that, we can say, thank you very much. But, you need to move, because we don't want you here anymore. Okay, we're absolutely clear. We don't want you here. We don't want this energy. We don't want this frequency. So you need to leave. And they had the opportunity to leave, and they didn't. So now there's no more negotiating.
Yeah.
When you're caught, you're done. Nick, you remind me so much of David Nino Rodriguez. You look like you could be his brother. It's amazing. You ever been told that?
I did a show with Nino. I did a show with Nino, and we do sort of have some type of similarity, I guess. Yeah, visually, the way we act. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Energy it's very similar. It's interesting.
Yeah. I kind of freaked Nino out. He wanted to do a show regarding cryptids, and we talked about, werewolves, dogmen, and all the other ones, and he didn't know what to do with that information. He literally was speechless. So it was fun.
That's not his forte. That's not really his lane.
No, but he was terribly interested.
Yeah, good.
I wanted to, all three different viewpoints. It's amazing because people that watch, people that are part of this community, patriots, truther, followers, the plan is such a simple two-letter or two-word statement, but it's such an intricate, complex thing that we're dealing with over such a long period of time. And like what Laura was saying, the beauty of what she was saying is she was tying in what nobody really thinks about, is the spiritual component of this seemingly geopolitical plan, which it is not. It is to the most people, to the viewer, to the casual onlooker. But in reality, I believe that this plan it was at least coached from higher realms, with no doubt. And there's a great deal of spirituality in the completion of this plan. So my small bit of advice to people that are watching and viewing, and even some of the truthers that are maybe coming on and doing videos regarding, white hats, either pull off the Band-Aid, or, those are really relatively simplistic arguments. There's a lot more going on a lot more levels than a group of, military men sitting around and deciding, let's not give humanity the med beds yet. Let's bask in our glory. Let's not end this movie because we kind of like it. There's a lot more going on than those types of simplistic thought process. But no offense, everyone has their journey. That's just a suggestion, because I do know at least how somewhat, or I know somewhat of how complex this process is.
Well, the term that's been bandied about is that we're in the middle of a fifth dimensional chess game. And that's absolutely pretty appropriate. Simon's 4, Laura's probably 6.5 dimensions looking down on the whole thing, because she has a very different, broader perspective on it all. You're right about assistance, off-world assistance helping with this. That's because we needed help. We never would have seen this without the input of other star nations, alliance nations, for lack of a better word, helping with showing us what this really was and how we could reverse the damage that's been done. Now, as far as the med beds, it's my understanding that many were created. I don't know exactly how many. I've heard numbers bandied out there, but I don't know what that actual number is. But the problem is that they were using deep state cabal military industrial complex technology, which is a double-edged sword. So that's why it's not being moved forward. There is other technologies that have been given to Solar Warden that is now in the process of being manufactured and being very quietly moved around the planet. And it is holographic. It is holographic and frequency. And there's talk about taking the equipment that has been built by the cabal, the pharmaceutical companies, etc., and changing that technology, upgrading it, and adding components to it so that it would be in alignment with the technology that the Alliance has given us. It takes time, because, it has to be manufactured. Fifth dimensional medbed technology, for lack of healing technology, would not necessarily work on us because the frequencies are completely different. So they have to dumb that equipment down for us. And it takes time for us to manufacture the components because, now everything's digital. Who's doing this technology? Who's building this technology? The military industrial complex, for the most part, has been very dark for a very, very long time and had their own agenda. They're the ones who created the breakaway society. Now those societies, those units have been pushed back into our solar system because they are not going to spread that shit out there. Okay, so they've all had to come back, and they're all having an epiphany. All right, they're going through their own epiphanies and their own having to look at themselves and what they've been doing. You just can't genocide your own race and think you're going to go into space and start all over somewhere else. That is not how it works. Okay. And they got called on it. They totally got called on it. So yeah, there's a lot more going on, and I can understand people, being sick and dealing with all kinds of issues and cancer and the people that have taken a Hippocratic oath to do no harm are creating all this shit to kill us. I get it. It's an absolute shit show. But, it isn't going to change overnight. And I wish it would. I wish it would. But all we can do is work on ourselves. And, one of the biggest tools that we all have is our own minds to create what it is that we want. And most people don't even have a clue what that is. They don't even have a clue what it is they really want. And if you were to ask, and I've asked people here in my own neighborhood, just off the cuff, people that I've met at the dog park, what is it that you want? Well, I want a new car. I want a better job. This is bigger than that. This whole thing, like Laura says, it's so much bigger than this. But, people are stuck in the 3D. They're totally, they don't see themselves as souls, multidimensional souls. They don't realize that they're constantly connected to source at all times, regardless. And being connected to source and fully connecting to that means that you have the ability to create what you truly want, And, the frequencies are changing. I mean, just look at the solar activity from our sun and from the central sun. It's off the charts. Everything is rising in frequency. That means, once you know that means you have to think in a different way. You have to fully engage those frequencies and use those frequencies if you want to stick around. But of course, there are those of us like Laura. Laura did a great interview with Katie Bishop as well, just phenomenal. We have to change the way we think because we're stuck in the matrix. It's like a self-imposed prison. If you're going to think in a box, you're always going to be in a box.
Yep.
Simon, did you have something you wanted to say on that topic? I mean, something else after Alex?
No, it's all right. I like to follow on with what Alex is saying because Alex, like me, is an experiencer, and there are very, very few genuine experiencers who are prepared to do what we're doing, which is speak publicly about it. I had an experience where I was hooked up to a machine, but they had to use a device to slow the computer down so that I could cope with it. And then when I thought, it would speed it up so it was fast enough for the machine. So we've always had a problem here with our dimensional number. My understanding is that there are a number of med beds now that have been completely built off planet, but go, when a diver, he or she comes up from the bottom, they have to come up in stages. And if they don't, they get the bends, they get air bubbles in their blood. So a number of these devices have been built, and then they've been, without losing their efficacy, without losing their abilities, they've been in some way, and I don't understand it, but they've been worked so that they will operate more effectively in this reality. And there are a number of those beds, and without giving any secrets away, they will travel from place to place. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I believe Alex is 100% right. This is a 10-year program of introduction. And then at the end of the 10 years, they're going to have a look and see what sort of headway has been made. So the difficulty for us is that this is our world, in the sense that it's our reality. And apart from devices that look into the future, or can do things like that, if we start relying on that, then we stop relying on ourselves. And I think it's a very fine balance between leveling the playing field so that we can have a fair crack at it, but not giving us such an advantage that we walk through it tomorrow and we're done, because then we're not spiritually really ready for it. And that's the problem with so many people who are genuinely good, and they want it tomorrow. They want it all sorted. They want President Trump back. They want tanks down the street, and they want it all sorted, and then they can go and have a wonderful life. But the problem is that that doesn't address the underlying issue, and this will just come back again. So this painful process is something I'm afraid that we've all signed up for, whether we like it or not. And the question is whether we'll see it through. So I am positive. I am aware that there's technologies that are being utilized for our dimension. And I just think it is a longer battle. It is a longer drawn out battle. But yeah, I haven't got really much to add. Alex has really brought that across quite well.
Yes, gosh, both of you. What are your thoughts on, like, I mean, when you talk about these beings, you can't reason with them. They're not gonna change. Is this because of AI? And is there like consuming of black goo? Is it just a total takeover?
Well, it depends on the group we're talking about. If we talk about the group that people love to hate, that's just their arrogant position. Talking about one of the reptilian groups, is that arrogant position. If you're born and bred to believe that you can go from star system to star system enslaving, then that's where you're at. And it will take a monumental seismic shift within that group to do that. But then you've got others who, perhaps not in their own right, they've been set up by others, and they see themselves as the manager of the store, and they run the store. So a lot of them are coming from a different perspective, but none of them have the spark of humanity, which makes us special. That's what makes humans special. Unfortunately, most people don't understand what it is to be truly human. And that is why, if only we understood that as a race, we could actually outperform many of these entities who are trapped in their own vortex within a frequency. They cannot escape it. And so they're absolutely hell-bent on, some of these Hollywood films where the old horror films where the guy's in a room and the room's getting smaller and smaller. Well, that's what a lot of these entities are in, and they know it. But they haven't got the ability to change spiritually with themselves, to either push the walls out or actually get out. And I've tried to explain, and unsuccessfully to most people who can't seem to get it. If you think of the lower fourth dimension, where a lot of the bad guys are, and it's budding off like a drop of water that leaves a tap, and it's now impinging into our reality. Well, once that, call it a drop of water, leaves the tap, and that then becomes a full circle, whoever is in that ain't going anywhere. They're trapped. They've got no escape from them. And as we move through, rather than they move through us, we have this great opportunity to view and learn. That is what is happening now. So the new human race, without getting too excitable about this, has the opportunity to completely change its, I say its future, its history, what is mapped out for us, but we could fulfill that. But I truly don't know how many people are coming out the other side. That's the point. I don't know how many. And one person once said to me, whatever comes out the other side is a winner. And that is just the way it is. Because you talked about bifurcation, Laura. You talked about the division, and that is truly going on. And it's been accelerated now. And, you know, there's still hope for a lot of people who haven't yet seen it, but there isn't much time left.
Well, that's interesting, Steinman. I mean, that sort of leads up to another topical question that will help, I think, all of the listeners maybe better understand what we're dealing with when we come to the end of the movie. You know, everybody just can't wait to get to the end of the movie, you know, whatever in their mind is the end of the movie. Let's just assume that in a couple of months, Trump comes back and he's the president and a whole bunch of bad guys go to jail. Let's make it simple. Well, what about the bifurcation? What about the vast difference in humanity between the us's and, let's just say, the normies, the ones that haven't been exposed or have any knowledge of any kind of what we, let's say us four, have been accumulating for virtually a lifetime? What will the world look like? Keep in mind that many of these, let's say, normies, like all of my family, they have absolutely no interest into coming into our world. They're enjoying their life blind. They're enjoying vacations every 2 months, taking pictures of fancy places and their new cars and new houses and new friends. They have no interest in what we say. They love the life they have currently. And there's a great deal of humans out there that are that way. The question to you guys and beautiful ladies, what will it look like at that moment in time when the pendulum stops swinging one way and begins swinging the other? When the movie is over, we have a great deal of work to do. What might that look like in this bifurcational period?
May I just say a few words, and I'm sure the others want to come in. The movie ain't over. This is one aspect of the movie. If you're in a tree, this is the roots. We've got a long way to go. Remember, it's personal choice, it's sovereignty. If the people don't choose, then they don't choose. We can't force them. But remember, there are an awful lot of people who live in the projects who don't have the lifestyle that you have just described. You have nothing, zero. So I believe from the NDAs I've signed that what is coming is a financial, materialistic balancing so that people have time to think about tomorrow. At the moment, vast numbers of people are just, I got to pay the mortgage. I got to put gas in the car. And that's all that deliberately by the bad guys, that's what takes their mind. But if you take that pressure off them, maybe, just maybe, they have the time to think, who the hell am I? Why am I here? How can I better my life? How can I actually be service to others? How can I help other people? So the project that I hope my organization, or projects that I hope my organization will be to deliver in the future, is a wide range of humanitarian projects across the planet and designed to fill that gap so that an educational program can run alongside them. So anyone who says, I want the movie over, yeah, you want this movie over, but you're in the cinema for a lot longer. Now, I know Alex will have a lot to say on that. So I know, Laurie, I haven't said much, but would you mind if I just ask Alex to come in with that?
If you break down to its simplest form what it is that this is all about, this holograph, it's color, light, and sound, it's frequency. Okay, Nick, it's all frequency. Everything's frequency. When that frequency shifts to another level, those who are content, those who are not awake, those who cannot change the way they think will more than likely go somewhere else.
Mm.
They will not evolve into the fourth dimension or the fifth. They simply can't do it because everything is different there. You're talking about jumping from a frequency span of 72 to 123 or 143, whatever that is. And then from there to 223, 221. The thinking we have here simply is not compatible with where we're going. That's number one. So they will transition. And they'll go peacefully. And then when they leave their bodies and they go to wherever they go, then they'll figure it out. Then they'll be debriefed and they'll understand, what this was all meant to be. So there's no judgment to that. Now, what makes us human? It's empathy and compassion. There are many different star nations, and I know Simon knows this, and probably Laura and other contactees know this. There are many other very advanced technological races out there that do not experience empathy and compassion. Or if they do, it's to a very small degree. Us humans, it's off the charts. And this is what scares some of these races, because when you're creating matter, when you're literally creating matter, when you're literally creating a holograph, what draws the energy to you? It's emotion. It's emotion. Okay, that's what draws it to you. And when you have that empathy, when you have that compassion, there is nothing we can't do. Absolutely nothing that we cannot accomplish. And we have that. Just look at the history of the human race. Every 4, 5, 6,000 years, we have these catastrophic things that happen to our planet. We have pole shifts. We have planetary solar systems passing through our solar system. We have dwarf stars that come through, flip planets, pull them out of their orbits, all these things that happen in our solar system. And yet, humanity continues to move forward, bearing our children along the way, with the hope that things will get better. You can't teach that. You have to be that. You have to be that presence. And we have it. We have it in spades. We have soul groups that have come in here that are so evolved, trying to change the frequency of the planet or assist humanity to get us to that next level, into the fourth and then the fifth. Simon's right when he says about lower fourth density. There's a lot of crap there. And we're beginning to see that because we're moving through that. Now we're beginning to see it. It's becoming visible. And I forgot where I was going to go with this, but if you break it down into frequency, you either raise your frequency to match the holograph that you're in, or you will leave that holograph and transition. That's just the way it works. The soul never dies. The soul never dissipates. It is what it is. Sometimes souls need to go back to source and get reset. Where, source kind of comes in and says, look, sport, you really left the reservation. You really fucked up. So we're going to reset you a little bit. Okay. Get you back on track. And that's what happens. And then the souls fall back into time, into physicality, and start a whole new chapter in their own evolution.
And how much was I don't want to cut you off.
Go ahead.
How much was the jab? I mean, just this whole latest PSYOP bioweapon. how much is that really going to make it difficult? Or is consciousness powerful enough to really break that down once a person sees through the lies?
Here's my take on that, especially those who have got the mRNA vax. The mRNA created a third strand of DNA, and that third strand placed itself between our double helix. So where does the soul attach to the physical body? It's the nervous system. That's where it attaches. It attaches to the nervous system of the body, and then it locates itself in the heart, not necessarily the head. And the energy field is the soul of a human being. That's the weight that leaves the physical body at death. It's the energy field. It's the aura, some people call it. That mRNA, third strand of DNA, basically separates the soul from the body. That's my understanding of what it was designed to do. Now, that's truly dark, evil shit. Truly. That didn't come from our guys. That came from the gray agenda, other dark programs. You know, it could have been the Draconians. It could have been the Orion Group. Could even have been from the Aldebarans that were working with the Nazis. You know, it's really hard to say because they all are all interwoven and all sort of been working with each other to give us that contrast.
Wow, God.
Simon, you got it. Simon, you gotta expand on what you know on that bit if you can. I definitely saw how that rang a bell somewhere in you.
Well, the hope I've got is that not everyone had that, and there was a lot of sabotage by the good guys as well. Of course, Alex is correct that technology was beyond this planet's civilization at this time, so it was given, and it will, for those people who've had that, it would allow external forces to work and manipulate with those individuals once their physical body is dead. That is part of what's going on there. So I agree with Alex. It's possibly not a reptilian agenda, possibly not. The reptilians are very happy using the planet like a farm, and there are others who are done with that. Anyway, that's probably quite deep. So I would suggest that there's been a big movement by the good guys to reduce that I don't want to call it a vaccination, but that's it really. But I do believe that sizable portions of people have done it. But look, it's free will. Nobody was forced to do it. We have people in our organization who worked in the health industry, and they were told, if you don't have this inoculation, you're going to lose your job. So they chose to lose their job. They chose to lose their job. If you know, you know. And that's the point here, that people are being offered opportunity after opportunity to make a choice. And ultimately, those that are the ones who've passed that test will be the ones that move on to another dimension. Now, I do hope we pass through the fourth very quickly and move into the fifth, because we are already experiencing the fourth. And if we can overcome the problems, which are largely from the lower fourth, if we can overcome them here, then we've proved ourselves. And I don't believe we will need to stay in the fourth for very long. We should just hopefully move up to the fifth. And I do agree, we're going to get technical now, so you're just going to have to forgive us. I do agree with Alex that there's a strong Lyran connection with you, Laura, and your sixth dimension, but you have also, I believe, been to the 12th dimension in one of your incarnations and come back again. But Alex, I believe, is right. You are ultimately a sixth, but you do have a connection through to the 12th.
Oh, wow.
So I just,
That's awesome.
We're talking business.
Where I know you guys from.
Yeah, I'm still I'm like on the second dimension, like ants with
No,
with
you're not.
with
Nonsense. Ants might be on a much higher dimension than most people, actually. You never know.
Oh,
They always
so
work together, don't they?
Yeah.
so look, I have to ask this question that really dovetails with everything we're talking about. That people have constantly asked me over the 4 solid years. And they want to know why. They want to better understand. And I know the three of you have these answers. And I know they would like to hear from you guys. Why? What's so different about me compared to all the other people, all of my
Right.
family?
Hold on. This is really divisive. I know you do the devil's play there, Nick. Joked about
Oh, Simon, what are you doing to me?
I've got it because this is very, very divisive. I've got to do it.
Okay.
I'm not going to let you get away with it. I remember when I was with MUFON, and there were people there would say to me, why are you so calm? Why you? And it was anger. Why you? Why are you so calm? Why have you seen everything you've seen yet you're not angry? And this is not the right way. It's not about us and them. Everyone makes a free choice, and their choice is right for them. Now, that may sound crazy, but their choice is right for them at this time. And that the battles we've had with our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, all of that is meant to have happened. That is part of what we go through. And you've got to be very step back to look at the bigger picture, but not everyone can do that. But people who fundamentally know that they're right, and there's nothing wrong in that. If you fundamentally knew that you didn't want to go to the doctors, and you didn't want to get that certain thing, and you didn't really know why, you just knew that you weren't going to do it, you should celebrate that. Okay. And that doesn't make you better than anyone else. It means that your journey was further down the road. I'm sorry, Nick, but there's a lot of families out there who are fighting each other.
I need to ask it. I'm going to completely bypass the vaccine.
Okay.
Let me phrase it this way for you guys to answer. In the soul, how is it different between the awake and the aware soul and the completely asleep soul in these two possibilities? And there's probably more, but is it that some of the souls on the planet are more local souls, they're younger souls, they've progressed more slowly, or is it more to the fact that they have been unable to see through the veil like maybe some others have? They have the memories, they just can't access them. Which is the more accurate depiction, or there could be another?
I think over to you, Alex.
Can I take a stab at
it? You.
Please.
Earth is boot camp for a soul. It really is. When you go through the process of lifetimes here, and you decide, okay, I've had enough of the Earth experience, you leave here with an advanced maturity as a soul. Because you can experience a lot of different things here. There are some souls who came here to evolve, to go through the process, and then to jump dimensions. There are others who have come in here just to literally create physical matter and enjoy third density, because it's very alluring. It is. The planet herself is a remarkable being. She truly is. And some people they just want to chillax. They don't want to learn. They don't want an education. Okay, because as souls, we're forever. Okay? We are forever. Source doesn't kill itself. So we're forever. And we just needed a break. So let's just go to Earth, chill, get our home in the suburbs, drive our cars, live our 80, 90 years with our little pensions and just chillax. Okay? Because we've come from other planets, other planetary systems, other galaxies. where we really, really had to work on ourselves. So we just wanted to take a break. Earth can do that. Then there are others who have come in and realized, okay, the mission is the Earth wants to evolve out of third, back into fourth, and then back into fifth. Rumor has it she was once a higher dimensional planet. And now she's done with this. She's done with taking the shots and the scars and the wounds. Okay, she needs a break. So she wants to go back to where she was. And we've come in to help that. But at the same time, we cannot infringe on what others are creating. They're either on board or they're not. There's no right or wrong, except when it comes to the children. That issue is a completely separate issue. And we've come in to do that, to help raise her frequency so the planet herself we will assist the planet herself in evolving into through fourth, back into fifth. That doesn't take any experience away from anybody else, because Nick, when it comes to a lifetime, being in physical form to falling into time, we keep coming back to the question, what is it that you want? And that's an individual question for everybody. There is no one answer that covers everyone. And it's so simple, people are like, that can't be it. But it is. You come into a life, you've chosen to be here, and you are creating that reality for yourself. So what is it that you want? Some people get a handle on that, and many people don't. They see themselves as victims, and they trap themselves in that victimhood. And when they're trapped in that, they give their power away, their personal power. They just surrender it. And they're very content being in that space. And, Earth can be a very tough school when you're in that place. So there is no one size fits all here. There just isn't. But the planet herself is ultimately calling the shots. It is. She's jumping dimensions. You're either with that or you're not. That's just what it is. It's what it is. And I know Laura's nodding her head and, why don't you give us some of that six-dimensional wisdom of yours?
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, we're either going with the trajectory of, this Earth. Why is this such a prophesized window period? And we look at all the hijacking, and it's just this incredible process that we're in. And the planetary system knows how to heal itself. The cosmic intelligence has the planetary alignments that are part of this great healing and growth and movement into these higher dimensions. And the psyops and false flags just hijack it to give us the inverted storylines, to keep us attached to, the drama, the fear, the problem, reaction, solution. And that's not going to get us there. But I agree with everything that you said. I don't even want to say anything. I'd pass it over to Simon or Nick, but thank you, Alex.
You're awesome, Laura. I love Laura. Well, interesting. All right. Well, I'm gonna ask Alex a question directly in regards to something you said called the Orion Consortium. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you were talking about this particular galaxy or a galaxy cluster, but you were mentioning that there's 14 of 22 similar situations, planets that have freed themselves. And I was curious as to where the Andromedans see us in that process in comparison to those lucky 14.
Those worlds were able to, on a spiritual consciousness level, to reach out to the universe and ask for help. And when that bell was rung, there was an answer. So they had intervention to help them, to free themselves from this group, the same group, the Orion group, this Orion Consortium, which is made up of a lot of very different star groups that all have a very similar agenda, and that is to control and manipulate other life forms for their own purposes, and have absolutely no compunction about enslaving other civilizations, for the most part, newly evolving races who don't have the knowledge and the wisdom or the spiritual intellect or maturity to be able to see this agenda on their own. Because a lot of times what they do is they come in and they pretend to help, and then what they'll do is they'll be gracious and do something very positive for the race. Okay. And then what they'll do is they'll spend the next 100, 150, 200 years taking that gift back. And by then, several civilizations know these groups, and they say, well, you know, they did this in our past, so they're good, not realizing that that gift had been completely erased and taken back. And now they're trapped. Now they're completely trapped in this matrix, this mind hive that's been created because all they saw was the original gift. It's very subtle, but it works. And you have to remember, we're dealing with beings that live thousands of years. So 100 years here is a weekend to them, right? And for those races like our own, you know, what's the average lifetime now? 75, 74 years of age? You know, 150 years, that's 2 generations, 3 generations for some. You know, and we're none the wiser. And we think this is just the way it is. So and that's because we don't have the advanced spiritual maturity. And when you've taken away the history of that civilization, we don't tend to know who we are because we don't have a point of reference. And we find ourselves winging it. And if we're constantly finding ourselves in a matrix that creates survival, all we know is that we're in survival all the time. At each lifetime, we're in survival. One of the questions that Visayas once asked me was, and I'm not going to get into the whole story, but it involved money. He said, I don't understand. Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? Right? That's a mofo there. That's a mofo, you know? And he's absolutely right. Who set that up? And if you don't have it, how do you survive on this planet you were born on? And what it is it's not about the money, it's the siphoning of energy. It's the siphoning of our life force, day in, day out. The distraction of us learning to be in survival so we can't see the big picture. Because we're clever. We are very, very clever beings. We do figure stuff out eventually. But if you're constantly in survival, you don't always see the big picture. And when you do, you believe yourself incapable of doing anything about it because they have siphoned off so much of our life force. We don't know how to take a stand on our own, or they've divided the civilization into separate components that how do you unite everybody to move against this force? You know, you change the languages. So one word means 4 or 5 different things, you know, and we can't communicate. We can't agree on even the definitions of things. They knew what they were doing. They were very, very clever, the dark side, when they came in here and did this. But it'll never happen to us again. I can tell you that. And this new quantum financial system, this will be the last monetary system humanity uses. When we outgrow it, we're done. We will truly be free. To unconditionally be responsible for ourselves without ever being coerced by some other authority. We'll get there. We're definitely going to get there.
I think you're absolutely right, Alex. And perhaps just for the audience, that you describe the Earth as female, and I believe in that. And I think that the Earth needed a higher life form like humans, so that the Earth had responsibility for that. Gave it that not reason to live, but reason to evolve, to take that group with it. And humans don't really understand the connection that they have. I think whales in the water understand the connection with the Earth, but maybe many humans don't. But they're a vital part of the planet evolving. And Alex was talking about, individuals, and I remember being in the pilot's chair of a large craft, and a very frustrated white draconian reptilian saying to me, "Well, what is it that you want? What do you want?" And I just said, "I want people to be free." And the emotion's not the right word for such a creature, but the best way to describe it is a wrecking ball hitting a cliff. Within the creature, it just couldn't comprehend, couldn't understand. And it just literally in the end shrugged its shoulders and walked away from me. And I think that all individuals at some point have to make a stand. They have to make a choice based on what they've learned and what they instinctively or intuitively believe in. And Alex made me laugh about these beings laughed a very long time, because whenever I have a communication with them and they say, this will happen soon, I say to them, your soon or my soon. and it is interesting that they do have a concept of how time, I say, doesn't work here, how it's different here, but majority of them still don't have a concept of compassion or the understanding. See, humans are brilliant because we're so hard to predict. That's why the best supercomputers in the world can't really see beyond 6 months. Humans will do things that appear to be completely crazy, but are actually in alignment with source. And so those creatures that are broken from source or have chosen not to connect, that's their downfall, is that they can copy, but they can't create. And that's why the human race is special. And I don't think its future is bad. I think its future is very positive, but only if people keep fighting. And we've got to keep fighting for it.
Oh, wow.
In defending each other, we will, only in defending each other will we remain free. Bottom line, if we can come together and defend each other as a race, as a family, we can always remain free. But once we allow someone to come in and divide us, we won't be free.
Totally.
Very true.
Yeah. But we're going to put each other on, and unity is not just love and light. I mean, we each have something unique, and we can help switch that on. Like whatever's been dormant or asleep, we can help switch that on, because what might be asleep in me might be awake in somebody else, and vice versa. So that coming together, I mean, I always think of the zodiac, like 12-strand DNA, 12 houses, then the 13. And, we're given a map, but it's really to take us into the 0-point unified field to override some of the patternings that keep us looping, and, to recognize the unique role that each and every one of us plays. And the whole idea of like guru or somebody outside of us having the answers for a bunch of just followers is a really, cop out. I mean, every single one of us has something so unique and important to bring. And then we can help each other find that wholeness again, I feel.
So the looping is what keeps us stuck, right?
What's that?
The looping is what keeps us stuck?
Well, I think like the Saturn squares and dark Saturn and mind control or social engineering indoctrination shows up in a chart, or mistaking your inner voice for an old voice of authority that said, no, you can't do that. That's not possible. All these limitations and barriers I feel are dissolving away. And then the higher octave of Saturn being self-mastery. And because it's the law of structure, like working with limitation and discipline, but in a way that serves us so that we can thrive instead of be repressed and shut down and limited by, like a doctor saying you'll never be able to do this, or you got this long to live. I mean, for example, we're capable of so much more. And I feel, each one of us has maybe the ability to break through something that somebody else might be looping in. And that unity is so important to just, provide that inspiration like you guys are doing. It's just like, so many people, it's like, oh yeah. With an open mind, it's like that activation can turn on something that has been asleep, So I think Saturn is like that, and how it lowers the energy of every other planetary consciousness. Like the dark side of Neptune is addiction, self-undoing, lost in delusions that have been infected by something outside of you instead of your own dreams and visions that you can manifest. So this is like what we're all talking about here. And it's just interesting to see, that, but it's not necessary to know one's chart if you're mindful and conscious. But it's just, I think people forget that they have a tremendous gift and uniqueness to bring to the table. And even in places that aren't, necessarily old paradigms, sometimes is very, very similar to the playbook, but in different lingo, different disguises, but it's still that dependency bond with something outside of yourself, and the negation of the answers and the truth and the uniqueness that the individual holds. That if everybody was empowered to stand in that, we would harmonize and unify in a much more powerful way, I feel. But kind of just similar to what you were saying. Or what do you guys think?
The Visayas once said, it doesn't matter what you believe as long as you clearly understand why you believe it. So many things we believe in our lives are things that we were told to believe. Doesn't mean there's any reality to it whatsoever. But in us believing it, we manufacture that reality. But is it real? Is it actually real?
Yeah, and it doesn't make us, does it help us to thrive? Is it healthy for us? Does our physical body say yes because it's a vision or dream or something that you came here to bring in, and it's belief in that instead of, something that would use that energy or infect it in order to, battery up something engineered because the power of suggestion or social engineering or indoctrination. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like if we don't understand the core belief behind it, then what is it really, right? Is that kind of what you mean?
Well, because of our compassion and our ability to have empathy, we literally have the ability to create realities. They don't. So that's why they use us to create a specific reality. And ultimately, by creating the matrix, the box that we think in, we literally, the more we believe that as reality, we physically manifest that. And what we're ultimately doing is creating our prison and a place for them to exist inside our prison.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. And AI is a real key here.
Yeah.
Because they have empowered certain aspects of humanity to create. We go right back to the Roswell situation, but they have dumped technology here. They have done deals, and we have embraced it, unfortunately, because we see it as the way forward. And with each step of that, it becomes more habitable for them and allows them to control us more. So that's a fundamental point. Actually, that's worth a show all on its own, because that's one of the real battles we face.
The A's have talked about fear a great deal. The A's, I mean the Andromedans. And one of the things that one of the things that they've really been strong on is that when you create in fear, what you do is you create perpetual disintegration. You're literally creating your own demise by building in fear. Because you're creating a loop that gets smaller and smaller and smaller to manufacture safety. Okay. But what you're actually doing is you're taking yourself down, because the universe isn't about fear at all. It's about quite the opposite. Okay. It's about expanding love and joy and gratitude. It's not about creating in fear. Because what do you do when you're in fear? You separate yourself from source.
Hmm. Yes.
Alex, is there a ground zero in your eyes and in the A's eyes to the existence of fear, where it came from? I mean, do we even have a clue how it was imported here, how that worked?
We learned it from other extraterrestrial races, war, prejudice. These were all learned behaviors by those we call gods who were before us. Lemuria, Atlantis, other groups that have come and gone. Their behavior we mimicked because we saw them with this great ships and all this technology and all this weaponry. We're like, oh my God, look at them. They're the gods. And they were taking out each other. They were warring with each other. This is a lot of what we call our civilization it's negatively learned behavior. And it's a miracle we haven't taken ourselves out, which is why a lot of them showed up when we started detonating nukes, because it tears holes in time. It rips the fabric of time open. And everybody was like, oh shit, look what they got their hands on now. So, and then that's when we began to have some positive as well as negative intervention.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the law of one,
I don't know. I think in our galaxy, the first real genuine lesson in fear probably was in Lyra. Invasion of the reptilian races in Lyra in our galaxy. Beyond that, I'm not aware of that history or that knowledge.
Yeah, in the law of one, Ross speaks about the atomic explosions, atomic blasts, and from what is said, what was channeled it's the one thing that has the ability to actually fracture a soul, to destroy or separate them, somehow the energy of the soul, and souls can be lost in that type of energetic event, and that was very profound to me, whether or not, I'm not saying everything in there is true, but it seemed true. It felt true. And my discernment said, I can understand how that might be the case, which was a very big no-no in our universe, is to destroy a soul.
Well, the A's don't, yes, there is that fractionalization, but they are of the firm belief. And, they're fifth, and, fifth density is being mentored by sixth density is being mentored by seventh, and it goes all the way up. They all work in tandem, and they try to keep everybody on the same page and moving with the same vision back to source. But the A's have always said that all the broken pieces will find their way home. In other words, back to source. So, if that should bring some comfort to those who are concerned about, the souls being fractured, that the energy's never lost. It's just, it has to find its way back home. And that would be the source. Source is always home for all of us, or God, or Great Spirit, Creator,
Yes. Our true divine inheritance versus the lower creator gods, and how we've inherited the things that they've pushed upon us and conditioned into us through amnesia and leveraging that amnesia. Because like you said, we don't have, if we have rewritten history, how can we possibly heal as a collective if we're running on artificial memories? Or
Exactly.
we can't heal from our childhood if we're not remembering the truth.
Very well said.
And that's why you're brilliant.
Oh, God. I'm just surrounded by brilliance. You bring the better part of me out then. So any thoughts, Nick, any questions that you haven't asked or any thoughts that you guys have that we haven't gone over? I know we could talk for hours, and I hope we do this again. This has just been epic. But yeah, any
Well, I think that we should end on a sort of current and positive note. I know that people always want to know where we stand, and Alex, I know you and Laura are very close friends with Elena, and I had an opportunity to go to Ireland and sit with her and have a few Guinness stouts with Elena Denon as well as Mahoney, and I think it was right about the time where she talks about the planet being freed of the, like we were talking about, the reptilians and the negative alien entities. Obviously there are still human problems, but I know that a great deal of fanfare is of concern in our solar system is out there, not a concern for our loss, but they're very, very interested and hopeful that we will be joining back with our families. And I guess a lot's going on out there. There are moons being moved around for mining. There are many, many, many ships out there that are rooting for us, in very strong belief that we will be joining our cosmic families. If you guys can sort of paint a picture of maybe where we stand globally and universally as far as our success here, I think that might be a thing that people are really interested in hearing.
Can I go first?
Of course.
I just wanted to go first so I wouldn't forget. The reason we have so many different blood types, the reason we have so many different body types is because our humanity is a collective of many different DNAs that represent our galaxy. The merging, the interbreeding with different other star nations has occurred on this planet. We also have many different soul groups that have come into this planet. And each soul group typically chooses the societies that it wants to be a part of. We're like this compendium of our galaxy. And it was one of the best kept secrets for a very long time. This compendium, this collection of different races and DNAs and blood types, etc. Because we're all interconnected, regardless of where we are, especially on a genetic level. If the Earth, when Earth goes from fourth into fifth, we collectively change the frequencies of all those other star nations that we're connected to. Okay? It's like the 100th monkey syndrome. We do that for them. We shift them in a way. Well, we just do. We shift them because we've made this jump. And what that does is that collectively shifts the frequency of the galaxy as well in a positive fashion, as well as it could have done that in a negative fashion. Okay? Because we're all connected. we were never alone. That's one of the biggest lies ever. We're never alone. We just don't understand who we are, and that's the best kept secret on the planet, is who we are individually and collectively as a race. We represent the galaxy. So, and now with that, I'm going to hand that over to either of my other two esteemed guests here.
Take it away,
Take
Simon.
the ball and run with it.
That was beautiful, Alex. Thank you.
Mahoney phoned me only 2 days ago, and he said to me, can we do an interview? And I said, after the RV. So he then spent 10 minutes asking me, when's the RV? Do you think it's tomorrow? I said, it's a secret, Mahoney. I mean, I like him. He's a great guy, but he's always after a scoop. I like what Alex says there, because we often see ourselves in isolation. And the virus, I don't mean the virus of evil, this is a firewall. It has to be stopped here. It has to be stopped on this planet. And that's why a lot of good guys have got off their butts, got off the fence, and for the first time ever, instead of saying we don't get involved, they got involved, because they realized if they didn't stop it here, it would come for them. And there are a number of entities in the upper fourth dimension who are looking around at the game saying, you know what, when that lot evolves, because we've made the move, we'll go with it as well. So I now think that there are more good guys than there are bad guys, because what is at stake is so much bigger. This is a beautiful water world. She's a beautiful place. But what is at stake is bigger than this. And I think every intelligent being has had to make a choice where it stands. And so we should all be very proud, everyone on the planet at this time, no matter who we are or what we are, that we incarnated at this time to be part of this. You see those films where Granddad shows the pictures and he says, I was here when this happened, and where were you when that happened? Forever and a day, it will be, where were you when the earth changed? Where were you? And, it's such a shame that people don't get it now, but they will in the future. But often important things are underplayed at the time for very good reasons. So, I mean, I'm really delighted to be with you all. Obviously, really pleased to be with Alex. Alex is one of my heroes. No, you are. You are, because you talked about things that nobody else is brave enough to talk about, and you paid the price. And I mean, I paid the price, but in a different way. But here we are. Here we are, still going strong, and we are going to come out the other way. And I'm very, very positive about things. I'm glad to represent Britain, because it's not always about America. I'm going to say that again. It's not always about America. It's the world. No good if America gets it great and everyone else is just down in the gutter. The whole planet has got to move as one. And that's what I think is happening. So I'm delighted to be with you. Let's hope we can do it again soon. I just love Alex's light show. It's Christmas every day with Alex. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A rising tide raises all boats,
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been fantastic, you guys. I thank you all. Laura, why don't you close this out, and we'll say goodbye to everybody and wish everyone the best.
Well, I'm just so thrilled. I feel so uplifted. I'm smiling in my soul. I mean, talk about like heroes, and just what you two represent in this world and what you've done for humanity. I'm just in so much gratitude. Thank you so much for just your friendship and wanting to join when the invite is there. It means so much. And Nick, it's always incredible to do stuff with you. I love the collaborations we've done. I'm so thrilled that we made this happen on a blue moon. It doesn't have to be once in a blue moon.
Well done.
Again, but thank you. I just can't wait to listen to this again. And thank you. Yeah, that's my book.
Laura's book, ladies and gentlemen, get Laura's book.
Oh, yes.
Yay.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, much love. Any final words, Nick? You said.
Nick, thank you. Thank you for, it was nice to finally meet you, and you know, wherever we are at this particular moment, we are all forefathers and foremothers of a new civilization. And that's just the role we're in. You can't hide from it, so you might as well embrace it, because that's just what it is. Take care, guys. I love you. Thank you so much, Simon.
Thank you all.
Let's try to stay in touch.
Definitely, Alex. God bless everyone here, and God bless America. All right. Thank you.
That's Britain. Take care. Thanks, Laura.
You.